Hello, welcome here. Have you ever found yourself in a quiet moment, perhaps after a significant achievement, feeling a subtle tremor of anxiety, a whisper that says, "I don't deserve this. Any moment now they're going to realize I'm a fraud." Maybe you've landed a dream job, received a promotion, or achieved something you've worked incredibly hard for, yet instead of celebrating, you're consumed by a secret fear of being exposed, a deep-seated conviction that you're not as competent as others perceive you to be. It's a paradox. The more you achieve, the louder that internal voice of doubt seems to become, making you feel like an accidental tourist in your own success story. You might look at your colleagues, your peers, or even just people you admire online and believe they possess an inherent brilliance you lack, that their confidence is genuine while yours is just a well-rehearsed act. This isn't just a fleeting insecurity, it is a persistent, often debilitating pattern of thought known as imposter syndrome, and it silently afflicts millions of bright, capable individuals just like you. Today, we're going to confront this pervasive feeling head on, not by merely acknowledging it, but by equipping you with a powerful psychologically backed trick to shatter its hold and reclaim your true worth. We're going to dive deep into its roots, understand its insidious mechanisms, and then, most importantly, learn how to dismantle it. So, if you are ready to stop feeling like a fraud and start living, let's begin by truly understanding the problem at its core. Imposter syndrome isn't a diagnosis in the clinical sense, but rather a profoundly common psychological pattern where an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. It is not about being humble, it is about a fundamental disconnect between your objective achievements and your subjective self-perception. You might possess stellar qualifications, years of experience, and a track record of success, yet still, you feel like you are just getting by on luck, charm, or sheer force of will, rather than genuine ability. This feeling can manifest in countless ways. Perhaps you procrastinate on important tasks, fearing that your work won't be good enough, or you overwork yourself to compensate for your perceived inadequacy. You might shy away from opportunities for fear of failure, or conversely, for fear of success, because success, to an imposter, only raises the stakes for the inevitable exposure. The true tragedy of imposter syndrome isn't just the discomfort it causes, but the immense potential it stifles. Imagine all the innovations, the leadership, the creative breakthroughs that are held back by. You might be holding back your own unique contributions, your own light, simply because a mistaken belief system is telling you you are not worthy. This cycle of self-doubt can be incredibly isolating, as many individuals who experience it are too ashamed to discuss it, fearing that speaking up will confirm their deepest fears of being found out. They believe they are the only ones struggling while everyone else seems to effortlessly navigate their. This creates a silent epidemic where talented individuals silently suffer, feeling alone in their struggle. But you are not alone. It is time to break that silence and expose the imposter for what it is, a deceptive illusion. Let's explore the typical characteristics and common traps that define this experience. One of the most insidious aspects of imposter syndrome is its ability to morph and adapt, often appearing differently depending on your personality and circumstances. For instance, some people become perfectionists, believing that if their work isn't absolutely flawless, they will surely be exposed. They spend an inordinate amount of time on tasks, meticulously checking and rechecking, often delaying submission or completion. This isn't about striving for excellence, it is about an intense fear of making any mistake that could reveal their perceived incompetence. Another common manifestation is the person, who feels they must handle everything on their own, take on every responsibility, and consistently outperform everyone around them. They believe that their sheer volume of effort will somehow mask their underlying lack of ability. They work harder, stay later, and rarely delegate, exhausting themselves in the process, all to maintain the facade of effortless competence. Then there are the soloists, who struggle to ask for help or collaborate. They believe that seeking assistance would be an admission of weakness, or a sign that they don't truly understand what they're doing. This isolation prevents them from learning, growing, and building the very support. Some might become experts, endlessly pursuing certifications, qualifications, and knowledge, always feeling that they need just one more degree or skill before they can truly be considered an expert. This constant pursuit of external validation through education becomes a never-ending quest, deferring the moment they must truly step into their expertise and own it. And finally, there are the geniuses, who believe that if they have to struggle or work, they expect themselves to effortlessly master new concepts or tasks. And if they encounter any difficulty, they interpret it as definitive proof of their intellectual inadequacy. This often leads to feelings of shame and a reluctance to take on challenges that might require visible effort. Do any of these sound familiar? Recognizing your specific imposter type is the first step towards understanding how to counteract. Each type highlights a different way in which the core belief "Faye, I am not good enough" manifests, but the underlying issue remains the same, a profound distrust in one's own capabilities, despite objective evidence. Now let's turn our attention to the heart of the matter. A powerful trick, a strategy that psychologists have found to be profoundly effective in dismantling imposter syndrome. It is not about faking it till you make it in the superficial sense, nor is it about simply telling yourself you are good enough. It is a deeply transformative shift in how you relate to your feelings of doubt and inadequacy. The number one trick is called fake cognitive reappraisal and the externalization of doubt. It is a multifaceted approach, but its core lies in fundamentally changing your relationship with instead of internalizing it, treating it as an inherent part of who you are, you learn to see it as a separate external entity, a thought virus, if you will, that is latched onto your consciousness. Let's break this down into actionable steps. The first step in this powerful trick is to externalize the imposter. Imagine the imposter feeling not as "I am a fraud," but as "there is a thought within." This distinction is crucial. It immediately creates a psychological distance. You are not your thoughts, especially not yourself, defeating ones. Think of it like this: if you received a spam email trying to convince you that you'd won a lottery you never entered, would you believe it? You'd recognize it as an external attempt to deceive you. The imposter feeling is similar. It is an internal spam email trying to externalize it. You can give it a name, a persona, or even a visual representation. Some people imagine it as a mischievous gremlin whispering doubts, others as a persistent, nagging critic, or even a broken record player in their mind. The goal is to make it something feyther than you, for instance. You could say, "Ah, there is Kevin, my imposter gremlin, trying to tell me I can't do this." Or the fraudster is back again by giving it a distinct identity, you objectify it. It stops being me and starts being it. This simple act of separation is incredibly liberating. It takes the power away from the thought because you are no longer identifying with it. You are observing it, much like watching a cloud pass by in the sky. It is there, but it is not you, and it doesn't define your true self or capabilities. This step is about recognizing that the imposter is merely a set of distorted thoughts and feelings, often fueled by deeply ingrained patterns from childhood or societal pressures, and it is not a reflection of your actual competence. It is like a bad actor trying to hijack your internal monologue. But you are the director of your own show. This practice also helps in reducing the emotional intensity. When you say, "I am feeling imposter syndrome," it is less overwhelming than "I am an imposter." The former acknowledges a temporary emotional state or thought pattern, while the latter makes it an immutable part of your identity. You are experiencing a thought, not becoming the thought. This shift is subtle but profoundly powerful. It empowers you to view the feeling not as a truth but as a mental event, something that imagine you are watching a play, and the imposter is just one character on the stage of your mind. You don't have to believe everything that character says. You can acknowledge its presence without accepting its narrative as your reality. This externalization is the foundation upon which the rest of the trick builds, allowing you to engage with yourself, doubt from a position of detached observation rather than overwhelmed identification. Now moving to the ***, once you've externalized the imposter, the next step is to observe its presence and label it for what it is, without getting caught in its emotional narrative. This draws heavily from mindfulness practices. When that familiar voice of doubt arises, instead of immediately internalizing it and spiraling into anxiety or self-criticism, simply note its presence. You might say to yourself, "Ah, there is that imposter thought again," or I notice the imposter voice is trying to tell me I am not good enough for this presentation. The key here is without judgment. This means you don't criticize yourself for having the thought, nor do you try to argue with it or suppress it. You simply acknowledge its existence like a neutral scientist observing a phenomenon. Why is this so powerful? Because most of the imposter syndrome's power comes when we fight it, it strengthens. When we judge ourselves for feeling it, we feed its narrative of inadequacy. By simply observing and labeling, you create a space between you and the thought. You become the observer, not the victim. This practice helps to disarm the imposter's emotional punch. It is like seeing a scary movie monster backstage in its costume. It loses its terror when you understand. For example, if you've just received praise for a project and the imposter whispers, "They just said that to be nice. You actually barely pulled it off," you would pause. Instead of agreeing or getting upset, you'd calmly think, "I am having a thought that discounts my achievement and attributes praise to politeness." This is my imposter thought at work. This neutral observation doesn't mean you believe the thought. It simply means you are not getting entangled in its web. You are acknowledging its presence, understanding its nature, and choosing not to engage with its harmful narrative. It is a subtle yet profound shift from "I am a fraud" to "I am experiencing a thought that tells me I am a fraud." This distinction, as we discussed, is foundational. It allows you to recognize the thought as a transient mental event. This practice can be challenging at first, as our minds are accustomed to getting swept away by strong emotions and thoughts. But with consistent practice, you'll find yourself gaining more and more control over your internal landscape, becoming less reactive and more responsive to your inner critic. It is about developing a detached curiosity towards your self-doubt, treating it as an object of study rather than a personal attack. The third, highly practical step in shattering imposter syndrome is to gather evidence and reframe. Our imposter thoughts thrive in a vacuum of objective truth, feeding on selective memory and distorted perceptions. To counteract this, we must actively and systematically challenge these negative automatic thoughts with concrete evidence. This principle is a cornerstone of cognitive behavioral therapy. The imposter operates like a biased lawyer, presenting only evidence that supports its case, your perceived flaws, mistakes, and shortcomings, while completely ignoring or discounting any evidence that refutes it. Your achievements, skills, positive feedback. Your job is to become the unbiased judge, meticulously collecting and reviewing all the facts. A powerful tool for this is what I like to call a success journal or an evidence. This isn't just a place to jot down thoughts. It is a living document of your capabilities. Whenever you accomplish something, no matter how small, completing a challenging task, receiving positive feedback, even a simple good job from a colleague, learning a new skill, solving a difficult problem, or simply navigating a tough day with grace, write it down, be specific, include details, what you did, how you did it. If someone praised your presentation, write down the exact words. If you successfully managed a complex project, detail the steps you took and the results achieved. The purpose of this journal is not to boast, but to build an undeniable, tangible record of your competence. When the imposter voice inevitably whispers, "You got lucky," or "You don't really know what you are doing," you now have a powerful counter-argument. You can physically open your journal and say, "Actually, my record shows I successfully completed X, Y, and Z. I received positive feedback from this person and that person. These aren't flukes, they are consistent patterns of competence." This evidence-gathering process extends to reframing perceived failures. The imposter loves to pounce on mistakes, presenting them as definitive proof of your inadequacy. But what if you could reframe those failures as learning opportunities or growth moments? For example, if a project didn't go as planned, instead of concluding, "I am incompetent," you could reframe it as, "This project provided valuable insights into X. I learned Y about process improvement and Z about teamwork. This experience has made me better equipped for future challenges." This isn't every genuinely successful person has a graveyard of failures that became stepping stones to their ultimate achievements. By actively collecting positive evidence and reframing setbacks, you are systematically undermining the imposter's narrative. You are literally rewriting the script your mind uses to interpret your experiences. building a robust fact-based foundation for your self-worth. This process requires conscious effort and consistency, but the cumulative effect is profoundly transformative, gradually shifting your internal dialogue from self-doubt to self-assurance. The fourth pivotal step in overcoming imposter syndrome through cognitive reappraisal is to embrace faith, act as if principle coupled with behavioral activation. Often, we fall into the trap of waiting to feel confident before we act confidently. The imposter wants you to stay paralyzed, believing you must fully embody a feeling of certainty before you can take any significant step. But psychology teaches us that the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and actions is bidirectional. Our actions can, in fact, change our feelings and beliefs. It is about consciously choosing to engage in behaviors associated with confidence and competence, despite your internal feelings of doubt. It is about understanding that confidence isn't a prerequisite for action, but often a result of action. Think of it as an experiment. If you consistently show up, speak up, and take on challenges as if you are capable, even when your internal imposter, each small step you take, each time you articulate an idea in a meeting, each project you initiate, each time you offer a solution, you create a new piece of evidence for your success journal. These actions, even if performed with trepidation, slowly chip away at the imposter's narrative. For example, if you are afraid to contribute to a team discussion because you fear your ideas aren't valuable, the act as if principle would encourage you to The first time might feel terrifying, your voice might tremble, but when your point is heard, perhaps even validated, you've just created an experience that contradicts the imposter's prediction of disaster. Each subsequent act of participation makes it a little easier, a little less daunting. This is behavioral activation in action. You are not waiting for motivation or confidence to strike. You are creating the conditions for them. It is about pushing past your comfort zone, not into recklessness, but into deliberate, small actions that build a new neural pathway of competence. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. They don't wait until they feel confident and balanced. They get on the bike, wobble, fall, and try again. Each attempt, each small moment of balance builds skill and eventually confidence. You are showing your brain through repeated action that you are indeed capable, even if it doesn't feel that way initially. This proactive approach not only generates new evidence of your abilities, but also helps to break the cycle of procrastination and avoidance that imposter syndrome often fosters. By taking action, you not only learn new skills, but also discover that your fears were often exaggerated. This shift from passive recipient of self, doubt to active agent of your own experience, is immensely empowering, gradually shrinking the imposter's influence as you accumulate undeniable proof of your capabilities through your deeds. Now let's explore the fifth, and perhaps most human aspect of overcoming imposter syndrome, embrace imperfection and vulnerability. The imposter thrives on the myth of it whispers that you must be flawless, always know the right answer, and never show any weakness. This relentless pursuit of an impossible ideal creates immense pressure and guarantees a constant feeling of inadequacy, because perfection is, by definition, unattainable for any human being. To counter this, we need to cultivate a radical acceptance of imperfection and embrace the power of realize that everyone, and I mean everyone, experiences doubts, makes mistakes, and has areas where they are still learning. The people you admire who seem so effortlessly confident are also navigating their own internal struggles. They've likely learned to manage their imposter thoughts, not eliminate them entirely. When you allow yourself to be imperfect, you release the burden of maintaining an impossible. It is like taking off a heavy, uncomfortable suit of armor you've been wearing to protect yourself, but which has only served to exhaust you. Vulnerability in this context isn't about exposing all your deepest fears to the world. It is about understanding that admitting you don't know something, asking for help, or even sharing a minor struggle with a trusted colleague or mentor isn't a sign of weakness, but a profound demonstration. When you say, "I am still learning about this, could you clarify?" Or "I am feeling a bit overwhelmed by this task, could we brainstorm some solutions?" You are not revealing yourself as a fraud. You are revealing yourself as a human being who is committed to growth and collaboration. Surprisingly, such acts of vulnerability often lead to increased trust and connection with others. People are more likely to relate to someone who is authentic. Your vulnerability gives others permission to be vulnerable too, fostering a more supportive and honest environment. This practice helps to dismantle the imposter's narrative that you must be a super person or genius who never struggles. It allows you to recognize that competence isn't about never making mistakes, but about learning from them. It is about resilience, adaptability, and the courage to embrace the idea that your learning journey is ongoing, and that visible effort and occasional missteps are not proof of fraudulence, but essential components of genuine mastery. This shift in perspective is about extending self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a good friend who is struggling. It is about recognizing that self-doubt is a common human experience, not a unique flaw that marks you. By embracing your humanity, your imperfections, and your capacity for growth, you strip the imposter of its most potent weapon, allowing you to move forward with a more authentic and sustainable sense of self-worth. Now that we've explored the core components of this psychologist's trick, let's talk about integrating the trick into daily life, to make it a sustainable practice. Overcoming imposter syndrome isn't a one-time fix. It is an ongoing journey that requires consistent effort and self-awareness. The power of the strategies we've discussed lies in their cumulative effect, gradually rewiring your brain's responses to self-doubt. The first aspect of integration is daily practice and mindfulness. Start your day with a brief moment of reflection. When an imposter thought arises, immediately apply the first two steps. Externalize it. There is the imposter thought again, and observe it without judgment. This isn't about stopping the thoughts, but about changing your relationship with them. Throughout your day, particularly after any interaction or task that might trigger doubt, pause and check in with yourself. Did you just receive praise? Acknowledge it and consciously place it in your mental or physical. Reframe it as a learning opportunity. This constant, gentle self-monitoring helps you catch imposter thoughts before they gain momentum and spiral into full-blown anxiety. In the evening, take a few minutes to review your day. Think about any accomplishments, big or small. Consciously acknowledge your efforts and achievements. This daily ritual reinforces positive self-perception and actively counteracts the imposter's tendency. It is like regularly watering the garden of your self-worth, ensuring it flourishes. The second crucial aspect of integration is building a supportive network. Imposter syndrome thrives in isolation. When you keep your struggles a secret, you feed the belief that you are uniquely flawed. Finding allies who understand and can validate your experiences is incredibly powerful. You might be surprised to find that many of them have experienced imposter syndrome themselves. Sharing your feelings of self-doubt, even in a small, controlled way, can be incredibly liberating when a trusted person responds with, "Oh my gosh, I totally get that feeling," or "You are incredibly capable, I see your worth." It provides external validation that directly counters the imposter's internal lies. This doesn't mean airing all your insecurities to everyone. It means selectively sharing with people who are empathetic and genuinely supportive. A strong support network can also serve as an external success journal, reminding you of your strengths when you are too caught up in self-doubt to see them. Their perspective can be an invaluable mirror, reflecting your true capabilities back to you. The third and perhaps most compassionate aspect of integration. This means treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you would offer a dear friend when the imposter voice is particularly loud, or you've made a mistake, instead of harsh self-criticism. Try to respond with warmth and understanding. Remind yourself that experiencing imposter syndrome is a common human struggle, not a personal failing. You are doing your best, and that is always enough. Self-compassion involves three main components: self-kindness versus self-judgment, common humanity versus isolation, and mindfulness versus over-identification. When you practice self-compassion, you are actively choosing to soothe and comfort yourself during moments of struggle, recognizing that imperfection and suffering are part of the shared human experience. This is a profound antidote to the imposter's harsh. By integrating these practices, daily mindfulness, building a supportive network, and cultivating self-compassion, you are not just applying a trick, You are actively reshaping your relationship with yourself and the world. You are building resilience, fostering genuine self-worth, and creating a sustainable path towards living a life where your accomplishments are truly your own and your confidence is authentically. This journey takes time, patience, and persistent effort, but the freedom and self-acceptance you gain are immeasurable. You are capable, you are competent, and your achievements are real. Now, if today's insights resonated with you, if you found yourself nodding along, recognizing aspects of your own journey in these words, I encourage you to take a moment. If this conversation provided you with a new perspective, a glimmer of hope, your engagement helps this message reach more people who might be silently struggling just like you. And if you are interested in more deep dives into psychology, philosophy, and practical strategies for a more fulfilling life, consider subscribing to the channel. Join our growing community of thinkers and learners dedicated to understanding themselves and the world around them more deeply. Together, we can build a space for growth, insight. I hope today's sharing provides you with a new perspective on the world, a fresh lens through which to view your struggles and your triumphs. Remember, the journey to self-acceptance is ongoing, but with these tools, you are well equipped to navigate it with courage and wisdom. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.